All right, so you want to go deeper with Dietrich Bonhoeffer,
Yep.
specifically how his story connects to the American church today.
Okay.
We've got a pretty fascinating mix of sources to work with here.
Yeah, we do.
We've got videos from Eric Metaxas,
Uh-huh.
Rabbi Jonathan Cahn,
Yeah.
even Jordan Peterson,
Interesting.
plus a sermon transcript that focuses on tithing as a core principle.
Okay.
I think we're going to find some unexpected links in this.
I think so, too.
So first things first,
Yeah.
who was Dietrich Bonhoeffer?
So Bonhoeffer was a German pastor and theologian,
Okay.
and he lived during, one of history's darkest chapters,
Mm-hmm.
the rise of Nazi Germany.
Okay.
And he was born in 1906.
Okay.
He wasn't just any pastor.
Uh-huh.
Just imagine, a family where brilliance was, almost expected.
Interesting.
His father, a leading doctor.
Okay.
A brother who worked with Einstein on splitting the atom,
Wow.
and a top lawyer.
Okay.
So Bonhoeffer could have easily chosen a really comfortable life, but felt compelled to resist the Nazi regime.
He had options.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It wasn't just a theoretical thing for him.
Exactly. And that's kind of where those parallels to today come in.
Okay.
So Eric Metaxas, in his videos,
Right.
he kind of draws a straight line
Yeah.
between the German church's silence during the Nazi era
Okay.
and what he sees happening in America now.
So he sees a direct parallel.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you've been grappling with questions about the church's role in society.
Mm-hmm.
Metaxas is jumping right into that fire.
Yeah, he doesn't shy away from the controversial stuff. He doesn't, that's for sure.
No.
He throws out terms like Marxism and critical race theory
Yes.
as examples of where he thinks the church is failing to speak up.
Right.
Before we get too deep into that, can we just quickly define what those even mean?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Just so everyone's on the same page.
So Marxism at its core is a social, political, and economic theory that critiques capitalism, arguing that it leads to inequality and exploitation.
Okay.
Critical race theory, on the other hand,
Uh-huh.
examines how racism is embedded in legal systems and social structures.
Interesting.
Both of these are really complex and debated topics.
Right.
And Metaxas sees them as forces that the church needs to address head on.
Okay, so that's where he's coming from.
Right.
He's pretty passionate about this idea of the church as the conscience of the state,
Uh-huh.
which I know is a key idea from Bonhoeffer.
It is.
What did Bonhoeffer mean by that?
So for Bonhoeffer, the church wasn't meant to be a rubber stamp for the government.
Okay.
It has a moral duty to speak truth to power,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's uncomfortable.
Okay.
So think of it as a moral compass
Okay.
guiding the nation towards justice and righteousness,
Okay.
regardless of who's in charge politically.
Got it.
Yeah.
So not just blindly agreeing with whoever's in power,
Exactly.
but calling out injustice wherever they see it.
Yes.
Which brings us back to Metaxas's point. Is the American church living up to that responsibility?
That's the question.
He certainly doesn't think so.
No, he doesn't.
Right.
He argues that issues like abortion,
Yeah.
for example,
Mm-hmm.
fall under the church's mandate to speak up for the vulnerable.
Oh, okay.
He even shares a personal story about confronting someone with different views on a film set.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Making it clear that this is about more than just abstract principles for him.
absolutely.
It's interesting that he uses a personal story to connect his broader arguments.
Right.
It shows how it's deeply personal for him,
Wow.
not just some intellectual exercise.
Yeah, and that intensity comes through in his call for Christians
Okay.
to be a voice of God in culture,
Mm-hmm.
which actually connects back to Bonhoeffer's concept of costly grace.
Okay.
The idea that following Christ
Yeah.
isn't about easy beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
but actions that might require sacrifice.
Okay.
And you mentioned wanting to understand this concept better.
Right.
It's essential to Bonhoeffer's whole worldview.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit.
Sure.
Costly grace versus cheap grace.
Okay.
It sounds a bit cryptic.
Uh-huh.
What's the difference and why should we care?
Okay, so think of it this way.
Okay.
Cheap grace is believing that you're saved simply by saying you believe
Okay.
without it actually impacting how you live.
Okay.
Costly grace is different.
Uh-huh.
It's about recognizing that following Jesus has real consequences.
Okay.
It might mean standing up for what's right,
Mm-hmm.
even when it costs you something.
Yeah.
Your comfort,
Uh-huh.
your popularity,
Yeah.
maybe even your safety.
Okay, so it's not just about saying the right words,
It's not.
but actually living your faith.
Exactly.
Even when it's hard.
Even when it's hard.
Which is, I'm sure, most of the time.
Right.
This makes me think of that sermon transcript that you sent.
Uh-huh.
The pastor really emphasized that faith without action is dead.
Yes.
It sounds like he's kind of echoing Bonhoeffer's point.
Absolutely.
Right.
The pastor's emphasis on tithing, on giving, even when you're struggling,
Okay.
is a tangible example of what costly grace might look like in practice.
Okay, so putting your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, so to speak.
Okay, so we've got this idea of the church as a moral compass.
Yeah.
This call to costly grace,
Mm-hmm.
speaking truth to power.
Uh-huh.
And now we're bringing in tithing.
Okay.
It seems like we're jumping around a bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Where does this all fit in with Bonhoeffer and the modern church?
So it's all connected.
Okay.
Trust me.
Right.
That sermon transcript,
Yeah.
while focusing on tithing,
Mm-hmm.
speaks to a broader theme of aligning your actions with your beliefs,
Okay.
which is something central to Bonhoeffer's message.
Gotcha.
But before we get too deep into that,
Okay.
let's bring in another voice.
Right.
Rabbi Jonathan Cahn. He offers like a different,
Uh-huh.
but equally intriguing
Okay.
lens through which to view these issues.
Okay. Rabbi Khan.
Yeah.
This is where things take a turn towards the, well, maybe a little more mystical.
A little bit.
He talks about a return of the gods.
Yeah.
I have to admit, that one threw me for a loop at first.
It is a bold claim.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Kahn argues that we're not just dealing with like societal shifts,
Okay.
but a resurgence of ancient pagan influences,
Okay.
manifesting in things like the sexual revolution,
Okay.
the blurring of gender lines,
Interesting.
even the way we view technology.
Uh-huh.
This return of the gods
Mm-hmm.
is his way of framing the spiritual battle
Okay.
that he sees playing out in our culture.
All right.
You mentioned being concerned about how technology impacts your life.
Yeah.
This is where it starts to get really relevant.
Okay, so I'm starting to see the connection.
Yeah.
So he's not talking about like ancient statues and temples.
Well, literally.
Right. It's
Get it.
more like these gods represent certain values or ways of thinking
Uh-huh.
that he sees, as opposed to a Christian worldview.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he sees technology
Uh-huh.
as a particularly powerful tool for these gods, potentially leading us toward idolatry.
Interesting.
Yeah, just think about how much of your life is mediated through technology,
Oh, yeah.
like your phone,
Uh-huh.
your computer,
Yeah.
social media.
It's a lot.
All these things shape how you see the world,
Right.
how you spend your time,
Uh-huh.
even how you connect with others.
Yeah. That's where it gets a little unsettling.
Right.
If technology can become like a modern idol, as Khan suggests,
Yeah.
what does that mean for us?
Yeah.
Are we all just slaves to our devices?
That's a good question.
And where does Bonhoeffer fit into all of this?
So it's a question worth considering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Remember, Bonhoeffer wasn't just concerned with the political.
Mm-hmm.
He was deeply concerned with the spiritual as well.
Okay.
And he saw how easily people could be led astray
Yeah.
by false ideologies.
Uh-huh.
So how would he view our relationship with technology today?
Right.
That's a question we need to wrestle with.
Okay, I'm hooked. I definitely want to dive deeper into this idea of technology as a modern idol.
Okay.
I'm starting to see how it all connects back to Bonhoeffer and the challenges facing the church today.
Yeah.
Before we get too far ahead of ourselves,
Okay.
let's take a step back and explore one more crucial aspect of Bonhoeffer's thought,
Right.
his understanding of truth and deception.
Okay.
This is where that interview with Jordan Peterson and Eric Metaxas comes in.
Yes. Peterson, a clinical psychologist,
Uh-huh.
brings like a whole new layer to this conversation.
Okay.
He delves into like the psychology of lying,
Interesting.
suggesting that it's not just about deceiving others,
Okay.
but about betraying yourself, fracturing your own sense of integrity.
Wow.
And this, as you'll see,
Okay.
ties directly into Bonhoeffer's call for the church to be a beacon of truth
Mm-hmm.
in a world increasingly shrouded in deception.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
All right.
I can already see how Peterson's ideas might challenge us to think differently about the cost of silence,
Right.
especially in the face of injustice.
Uh-huh.
But let's save that conversation for next time.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
I need a moment to process all of this.
Sounds like a good plan.
All right, back into the deep end we go.
Yep.
Picking up where we left off,
Okay.
Bonhoeffer,
Uh-huh.
the church, and a whole lot of challenging ideas swirling around, I have to say. Thinking about his story alongside these modern voices like Metaxas Cahn and Peterson
Uh-huh.
has really sparked some questions for me.
Good.
So let's get right to it.
Okay.
We were about to delve into that interview
Right.
between Jordan Peterson and Eric Metaxas.
Yeah.
What stuck out to you about their conversation?
So Peterson's insights on the psychology of lying were particularly striking.
Interesting.
He argues that knowingly lying
Yeah.
isn't just about deceiving others.
Okay.
It actually damages your own sense of self. It erodes your integrity from the inside out.
Wow.
You're betraying your own moral compass.
That makes me think about those times when I've stayed silent, even when I knew something was wrong.
Right.
It's like I was lying to myself by not speaking up, trying to avoid conflict or discomfort.
Yeah.
It's definitely something I'm going to be thinking about more going forward.
It's a powerful connection.
Yeah.
And it goes straight to the heart of Bonhoeffer's challenge to the church.
Okay.
If remaining silent in the face of evil is a form of self-deception, as Peterson suggests,
Right.
then speaking the truth, no matter the cost, becomes an act of both personal and communal integrity.
So aligning your actions with your beliefs.
Exactly.
Even when it's hard.
Even when it's hard.
So circling back to Bonhoeffer, if he were alive today, in 2024 America, what issues do you think he'd be raising his voice about?
Knowing his life and writings, anything that diminishes human dignity would be on his radar. Remember, he was living under a totalitarian regime.
Right.
So the erosion of freedom and individual rights would deeply concern him.
Okay.
Given your interest in social justice, think about the parallels to today.
Okay.
The treatment of marginalized groups, the rise of political polarization, the threats to democratic values.
Yeah.
These are all areas where Bonhoeffer's voice would likely be heard loud and clear.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
He was so deeply committed to speaking truth to power.
He was.
No matter the consequences.
Right.
Makes me wonder how he would navigate the complexities of social media.
Oh, that's a good question.
And the 24/7 news cycle.
That's an intriguing question.
Right.
He was a brilliant communicator. So he'd no doubt find ways to leverage modern platforms.
Yeah.
But knowing his emphasis on reflection and genuine connection, I suspect he'd be wary of the pitfalls of technology too.
Right.
Remember Rabbi Kahn's warning about technology becoming a modern idol?
Yeah.
I bet Bonhoeffer would be urging us to use technology responsibly without letting it control us.
You've actually hit on something I've been wrestling with lately.
Okay.
I find myself constantly drawn to my phone, scrolling through social media, getting sucked into the outrage cycle. It's like, I know it's not good for me, but I can't seem to break free.
Do you think Bonhoeffer would have any advice for someone like you? Struggling with the addictive nature of technology?
I don't know.
Well, he wouldn't have a smartphone, that's for sure.
That's true.
But his writings on discipline and spiritual formation offer some timeless wisdom.
Oh.
Remember, costly grace is about making choices that align with your values, even when they're difficult.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling enslaved to technology, maybe it's time to set some boundaries.
Okay.
Create some space for silence and reflection, and prioritize real-world connections over virtual ones.
It's funny you should mention silence and reflection. I remember being struck by Metaxas's description of his own conversion experience.
Okay.
That vivid dream about the golden fish symbolizing Christ, it clearly had a profound impact on him. Changing his whole life direction.
Conversion experiences, regardless of their specific form, often involve a deep encounter with truth. A shift in perspective that can be incredibly disorienting and liberating at the same time. It seems you're drawn to the power of these transformative moments.
I am.
Yeah.
There's something so compelling about the idea of a single experience, having the power to completely change your life. It makes me wonder if maybe we all need those moments of profound awakening, even if they don't involve golden fish or burning bushes.
Perhaps. But maybe it's less about waiting for a lightning bolt. And more about cultivating an openness to truth in our everyday lives. Remember Bonhoeffer's emphasis on seeing the world as it truly is, even the uncomfortable parts. That kind of attentiveness can lead to its own kind of transformation.
So it's not necessarily about a dramatic event.
No.
But a willingness to see things differently. To question our assumptions. And be open to new perspectives. Which, now that I think about it, is kind of what this whole deep dive is all about.
Exactly. We're taking these different sources, these different voices, and using them to illuminate Bonhoeffer's legacy. And its relevance to your life today.
Gotcha.
And in doing so, we're hopefully opening up new ways of seeing the world.
Right.
Of understanding your own faith.
Yeah.
And of engaging with the challenges of our time.
Okay. I'm on board with that.
Right.
But I have to ask, where does the tithing conversation fit into all of this?
Okay.
It feels like we've touched on it briefly.
Yeah.
But haven't really explored it fully.
Right.
Is it just a side note?
It's more than just a side note. Remember that sermon transcript you shared?
Yeah.
The pastor's impassioned argument for tithing,
right,
while rooted in specific biblical interpretations, speaks to a broader theme of sacrifice and generosity.
Okay.
A willingness to put your resources where your heart is.
Right.
And that, I think, resonates deeply with Bonhoeffer's idea of costly grace.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It's not just about the money itself.
It's
not about what it represents.
Right.
A commitment to something bigger than yourself. A willingness to prioritize spiritual values over material ones.
Yes.
It's interesting because I've always struggled with the concept of tithing.
Okay.
It felt so legalistic. Like a rule I had to follow.
Right.
Rather than a joyful expression of faith.
That's a common struggle.
Yeah.
But remember, the pastor in your transcript framed tithing as an act of worship.
Okay.
A way of acknowledging God's ownership of everything we have.
Right.
It's not about earning God's favor or following a set of rules, but about cultivating a spirit of gratitude and generosity.
Okay.
That flows from a heart aligned with God's heart.
That makes more sense to me. It's not about the amount we give, but about the heart behind it.
Exactly.
And that generosity extends beyond finances.
It does.
It's about being generous with our time, our talents, our compassion, our willingness to forgive, our willingness to love, even those who are difficult to love.
Exactly.
So it's about living a life that reflects the abundance of God's grace.
Yes.
A life that spills over with love and kindness and a desire to make the world a better place.
That's beautifully put.
Thanks.
And it reminds me of something Bonhoeffer wrote.
Okay.
About the nature of true discipleship. He said, when Christ calls a man, he bids him come and die.
Wow.
Now that might sound morbid.
Yeah, a little bit.
But he wasn't talking about physical death. He was talking about dying to our selfish desires, our ego-driven ambitions, our need to be in control.
Okay.
It's about surrendering to a higher purpose, a purpose that transcends our own limited understanding.
Wow, that's deep.
It is.
It's like he's saying that true freedom comes from letting go of our own agendas and embracing the life that God has for us, even if it means stepping into the unknown.
Yes.
Even if it means sacrifice and discomfort.
Exactly.
It's a paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
We find our true selves by losing ourselves in something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
And in that surrender, in that willingness to die to our old ways of being, we discover a life that is infinitely more meaningful, more joyful, more aligned with the heart of God.
Exactly.
You've given me so much to think about.
Yeah.
This deep dive has been like a spiritual workout.
Okay.
Stretching my mind and challenging my heart.
I'm so glad to hear that. And remember, this is just the beginning of the journey.
Okay.
Bonhoeffer's life and work offer a lifetime of exploration and inspiration.
So where do I go from here?
That's a question only you can answer.
Yeah.
But I would encourage you to keep exploring Bonhoeffer's writings.
Okay.
To engage with the ideas that have resonated with you. And to seek out communities where you can wrestle with these questions.
Yeah.
Alongside others who are on a similar journey.
This has been incredibly insightful. Thank you for helping me connect the dots.
You're welcome.
Between Bonhoeffer's legacy and the questions I'm wrestling with in my own life.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
We've covered so much ground.
We have.
But I feel like we're just scratching the surface.
Right.
I'm definitely going to be spending some time reflecting on everything we've discussed today.
That's the best outcome we could hope for.
Yeah.
Remember, the goal of a deep dive isn't to provide all the answers. But to spark curiosity, to challenge assumptions, and to inspire further exploration.
So where do we go from here?
Okay.
What's the next step on this journey?
That's a question only you can answer.
Okay.
But I would encourage you to keep seeking, keep questioning, keep wrestling with these ideas.
Okay.
And most importantly, keep listening to that quiet voice within.
Okay.
That nudge toward truth, toward compassion,
right,
toward a life of meaning and purpose.
I will.
Yeah.
Thank you for guiding me this far.
You're welcome.
I feel like I've been given a roadmap.
Okay.
But now it's up to me to choose which path to take.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Thanks.
Remember, the journey is yours to make.
I'm ready for the challenge. You know, as we wrap up this deep dive into Dietrich Bonhoeffer,
Yeah.
I'm struck by how much his story still resonates today.
It is remarkable.
Even in a world so different from his own.
Yeah, his life and writings,
Right.
they seem to cut through the noise and speak directly to the core of what it means to live a life of faith in a complex and often challenging world.
One thing that keeps coming back to me is this idea of costly grace.
Right.
That true discipleship requires sacrifice.
Yes.
It's a concept that has really challenged me throughout this whole conversation.
It's definitely a countercultural idea.
Right.
Especially in a society that often prioritizes comfort and self-fulfillment above all else. We're bombarded with messages that tell us to focus on our own happiness,
Right.
our own success, our own needs.
It's so easy to fall into that trap.
It is.
To settle for what Bonhoeffer called cheap grace.
Right.
This belief that we can have all the benefits of faith without any of the costs.
But that's not the kind of faith that Bonhoeffer embodied, is it?
No.
He was willing to risk everything, even his own life, for what he believed in.
And that's a powerful challenge for us to consider.
It is.
What are we willing to sacrifice for the sake of our beliefs, for the sake of others, for the sake of the gospel?
That's the question.
It's a question I'm still wrestling with, honestly.
Okay.
I want to be courageous like Bonhoeffer, but I also get scared.
Sure.
I worry about what people will think.
Yeah.
About the potential consequences. About stepping outside my comfort zone.
Those are valid concerns. It's important to acknowledge them.
Okay.
But remember, Bonhoeffer wasn't superhuman.
Okay.
He experienced fear and doubt, too.
Right.
What set him apart was his willingness to act despite his fear.
Yeah.
To trust that God would be with him even in the darkest of times.
That's where I get stuck. I think trusting, it's easier said than done.
It is.
Especially when the world feels so uncertain.
Right.
So chaotic.
It is hard.
Right.
And there's no magic formula for developing unshakable trust.
Right.
But maybe it starts with small steps.
Okay.
With practicing faithfulness in the everyday moments of our lives.
So like...
Remember that sermon on tithing? The pastor shared how he experienced supernatural provision.
Yeah.
Even when he was down to his last $10.
Right.
That kind of radical generosity, that willingness to trust God, even when it doesn't make sense logically, can be incredibly transformative.
You've actually hit on something that's been bugging me.
Okay.
That pastor's story was incredibly moving. But I'm still struggling to reconcile the idea of tithing with my own understanding of faith.
Okay.
It feels so prescriptive, like a rule I have to follow, rather than a free expression of generosity.
It's a tension that many people feel.
Yeah.
And ultimately, how you choose to approach giving is a personal decision between you and God.
Okay.
But remember, the pastor framed tithing as an act of worship, a way of acknowledging that everything we have ultimately belongs to God. It's not about earning God's favor or following a set of rules, but about cultivating a spirit of gratitude and generosity. That flows from a heart aligned with God's heart.
That makes more sense to me.
Good.
It's not about the amount we give.
It's not.
But about the heart behind it.
Exactly. And that generosity extends beyond finances.
Right.
It's about being generous with our time, our talents, our compassion.
Yeah.
Our willingness to forgive.
Right.
Our willingness to love, even those who are difficult to love.
So it's about living a life that reflects the abundance of God's grace.
Yes.
A life that spills over with love and kindness and a desire to make the world a better place.
That's beautifully put.
Thank you.
And it reminds me of something Bonhoeffer wrote about the nature of true discipleship.
Okay.
He said, when Christ calls a man, he bids him come and die.
Wow.
Now, that might sound morbid.
Yeah.
But he wasn't talking about physical death.
Okay.
He was talking about dying to our selfish desires, our ego-driven ambitions, our need to be in control.
Right.
It's about surrendering to a higher purpose, a purpose that transcends our own limited understanding.
Wow, that's deep.
It is.
It's like he's saying that true freedom comes from letting go of our own agendas and embracing the life that God has for us.
Yes.
Even if it means stepping into the unknown.
Exactly.
Even if it means sacrifice and discomfort.
It's a paradox, isn't it?
It is.
We find our true selves by losing ourselves in something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
And in that surrender, in that willingness to die to our old ways of being, we discover a life that is infinitely more meaningful.
Right.
More joyful. More aligned with the heart of God.
You've given me so much to think about.
Good.
This deep dive has been like a spiritual workout.
Okay.
Stretching my mind and challenging my heart.
I'm so glad to hear that.
And remember, this is just the beginning of the journey.
It is.
Bonhoeffer's life and work offer a lifetime of exploration and inspiration.
So where do I go from here?
Yeah, what's the next step?
The next step is yours to take.
Okay.
But I would encourage you to continue exploring Bonhoeffer's writings.
Right.
To engage with the ideas that have resonated with you. And to seek out communities where you can wrestle with these questions alongside others who are on a similar journey.
I will definitely do that.
Good.
Thank you for guiding me through this deep dive.
You're welcome.
It's been an incredible experience.
The pleasure was all mine.
Well, thank you again for joining us for this deep dive into the life and legacy of Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
You're welcome.
We hope you found it as thought-provoking as we did.
We did.
And that you'll continue to wrestle with these important questions about faith, courage, and the cost of discipleship.
Yes.
And remember, the world needs your courage.
It does.
Your compassion and your willingness to live a life of costly grace.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.